MRW, up or
Do you wanna
down, balls
serve or
up,
do you wanna
balls down,
return?
POD.
Which side is the sun, man? Are we serving?
Wait, which way is that?
Spin the Racket.
Welcome back to Spin the Racket, the recreational tennis pod, covering everything from the pro tour to the everyday league player. I'm your boy G.
And I'm Lou.
Today marks a special milestone for us. We're bringing on our very first guest, the one and only Jake Tuchmann. We'll explore his journey in competitive tennis, get his unique perspective on the pickleball boom, and dive into some topics that every tennis player can relate to. Jake, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Obviously, we've known each other for a good bit. Our Alta teams have played each other over the years. I won't comment on the head-to-head record. That doesn't matter here, but yeah, it's good to see you in the studio.
Yeah, no, it's great to be, outside of the, tennis court and actually doing stuff in the studio. And by the way, to our listeners, this is an unbelievable studio. So I'm absolutely honored to be here with them for the first one. So
Appreciate that.
Yeah, we hope to have you for some more,
So I got to ask you the question. Probably to every guest will do this, but would you rather have no serve or no forehand?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just background myself is growing up, I had the most extreme forehand. So
Okay.
for any type of top spin and power, I had to get very under the ball and hit a lot of spin. So I sliced a lot.
Yep.
So, throughout my tennis career, I feel like I've definitely sliced a lot of forehands. So I think personally, I would have to say no forehand because I feel like I've done it my whole life. I'm a backhand king and I love my backhand.
All right.
Very nice, very nice. What do you mean by extreme forehand?
Yeah. So when typically if you drop the racket, for people that don't know, and you pick it up, that's what's just normal semi.
Eastern, like
Yeah, it's the Eastern grip, which I have now. But through growing up, is if you picked it up and rotated it, I guess it would be counterclockwise, where if you're hitting a ball, the face is pointing down of your racket instead of normal. It's pointing down. So when I have to hit a forehand, I have to really drop and break my wrist and get under it.
oh, so you had like a Western, like a full Western, super Western. I think that's what they call it. Okay.
Yeah, so it was a true challenge, playing singles. I felt like a lot of people were just like, okay, hit to his forehand, he'll slice it, or he'll hit this terrible forehand that had no
Right.
power and just like a little blooper. So I made it work, but I definitely don't recommend it.
Well, we're excited to get to know you. Obviously, we know each other, but the listeners and viewers get to understand your story a bit. So maybe just give a little bit about your background, how you got into tennis, just who you are.
Yeah, so I've lived in Atlanta probably about 23 years. So I've been here most of my life. Kind of how tennis blew up was for me is, our neighborhood started doing junior lessons. I jumped into that. And, my dad is a baseball player, so I always had a little bit of hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, in your blood.
Yeah. So it's kind of in the blood. I tried baseball and tennis basically throughout growing up and all the way to high school. And, I just never really was a bigger guy. Tennis just more suited me. So, my beginning year of high school, I was like, if I make varsity for tennis, I'll play tennis. And, I made JV for baseball. And then I made varsity for tennis. So I was like, okay, well, this is, I'm going to pursue tennis probably going forward.
Yep.
Did that throughout high school, had a pretty good high school career. Mostly played doubles, then got a scholarship for D2 in North Knoxville, Tennessee, called Lincoln Memorial University. So I played there for 4 years, had a decent career. Really started to get singles going because they recruited me for doubles. And, I really started getting my singles career kind of my sophomore and junior year, or excuse me, my junior and senior year. So I was doing both singles and doubles then. Yeah. Graduated, finished that out. COVID hit, so we actually got one extra year. So I played that out, which was nice. And now we're just, that weekend warrior in Ulta now.
That's fair. Yeah. What was it like playing college tennis? Like, I mean, I look at it just, Luis and I play on the weekends and USTA, how it goes. But I've always thought about like college tennis. I was like, it looks so cool. Just like seeing the fans and how people get into it. Like, what was the experience like for you?
It was great. Me personally, I'm a very type A, like to be organized. I like a lot of structure. Having, going through high school or college tennis and the structure of it, you have, your workouts. You do tennis practice 5 days a week. You do weightlifting 3 days a week. You have your classes in the morning. I personally like a lot of that structure. Like I needed that structure to tell me like, okay, this is what you should do. And you like you'll start getting a rhythm of it. So the structure side of tennis, of college tennis, I really enjoyed, and I think it really helped me grow going forward in my life. Now it's a different beast of, you have to have, physical aspect. You really got to be mentally tuned. You got to be, with your classes, you can't fall behind on that. So definitely, if I had to do it again, I would do college tennis again. I would probably focus a little more on academic side because my first 2 years, I kind of blew it off. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do tennis. So I probably should have done that, academics a little better. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's a beast in itself, but it's awesome.
You talked a little bit about having to balance that academics and what sounds like a very full schedule of tennis, right? Because I think during your college years, and correct me here, but that's the most tennis you ever see.
Yeah. I've never played more tennis in my life than in college. I mean, you're doing typically how it works, at least for the D2 level. It's you do your academics in the morning because that can be 8 from 12, maybe an afternoon class, but then typically from 2 to 4, 4:30, you're doing your team workout, so your team practices, and then depending on what day it is, you could be doing your weightlifting as well. So you're having potentially 3.5 hours worth of physical training. So, and not on top of the matches, which are typically, you do 1 or 2 matches a week during like the actual season, which typically starts in spring. So it's definitely the most tennis I would say. Like, I don't even think I could do right now what I was doing back then, even if I tried.
Yeah.
I might die.
How did you balance that between the academics? You said obviously at the beginning, the first couple of years, you kind of said, you know what, let's focus on tennis, but then you realize, oh, maybe I need to put more time into that. How do you do it?
You just really have to be, have a lot of self-control. If you don't, and my freshman year I didn't have the best GPA. I think it was like maybe a 3.0. In high school I was a 3.5 student. I did really well, but you didn't have to try as much. When you get into college freshman year, it's a lot of different changes. You're moving away from home. You're doing these practices with your team. You're meeting a bunch of new people. You're a lot of social aspects. So you can really, you're like, oh, I can blow off doing academics or studying for this test I have at the end of the week, or this assignment's due at midnight tonight. It's only 6 o'clock. I could do it at 11:30. So if you really don't, set yourself with a schedule and really focus on your academics, you can get behind very quickly. And if you start down in your first year, you really have to, like your sophomore, junior, senior, you're just going to be working on recovering and, trying to build your GPA back up.
I mentioned earlier that obviously our teams have played each other in Alta. We haven't played each other or like practiced together, but like describe your style of play. Like when you're on the court, like are you like an intense, like dialed in player? Do you get like angry and throw your racket quickly? Like what's kind of your vibe on court?
I definitely have gotten more patient over the year. So I will say I'm not notorious for throwing a racket or getting angry like that. A lot of my doubles partners will say when we get in match setting, there's like, you have 2 Jakes. You have practice Jake, who's, very supportive. He's very, he likes to work on things with people. He likes to help people. And then you have match Jake, where it's like, as soon as that first point's served, we're like, okay, we're not losing. We're not losing. And, I get intense, but, I try to be as supportive as possible. And my current partner in mix, I played with her for, 3 years now. And she's seen both sides of it. And, sometimes she'll text me and be like, hey, I'm so sorry I played bad. And I'm like, no, you played great. I was just too much. Like, I need to be a little more patient and I need to be more supporting. So there's definitely, I have 2 styles, but I will say I'm not super angry. I don't, be vulgar or anything of that nature. So
Yeah. It's not a lot of smash rackets out there from your days.
I never smashed.
I like how you make eye contact when you say that.
Yeah, no, I'll call anybody out.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I've had my moments, but
How many smash rackets have we had?
entire career, 3.
Okay.
I mean, I'm definitely not a serial smasher, but it's not very proud, right? It's like,
I mean, if you think about it, that's like rookie numbers compared to like Medvedev or like Kyrgios, right?
Yeah.
yeah, he's still looking at me like, yeah, man, you shouldn't do that. And it's like, yeah, I feel judged. It's all good. I mean, yeah, there's no harder judge than myself, but yeah, if you've ever played tennis, you know how frustrating the sport can be at times. And it's like, we all have different personalities. I am very intense. And so sometimes if I don't channel that intensity, it just kind of boils inside me. And, I've learned to let it go a little bit more now. but it's not easy to handle. I don't have the best personality for tennis.
So obviously in college you're playing, super competitively, like you said, every day almost pretty much. What's that like when you graduate and then you're done with that piece? Like how did you kind of make that transition to just playing everyday leagues, or maybe you stopped playing tennis? Like what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, you will find for any college tennis player out there, a lot of people need a break from the competitiveness. So you'll see a lot of people, and I personally did a gap year, like 1 year from when I graduated into recreational tennis, where I didn't join a league. I didn't join Ulta. I didn't do USTA just because I was so burnt out from tennis that like mentally I was like, I'd rather just, have fun with it, not really take it as serious and kind of like try to chase that high of college tennis where, you can have really high highs, but also really low lows.
Right.
So that was a big adjustment for me. But personally, what worked was taking that year off. And then I kind of, I worked my way back into Alta, USTA, and like, what I would say for people is just take as much time as you need, and then, find groups, find public parks, find Alta people, find close tennis friends, because then, you can kind of build your friend base up there, and then, you'll just kind of work together, be like, okay, well, I found, a good friend that plays tennis with me and he's decently well. Let's try some T2. If that goes well, okay, let's maybe try to start an Alta league. So it really was, it was for me personally, taking that time off was great. But, I probably play once or twice a week. And for me, that's like enough. So,
Interesting. And I know we talk a lot about Alto. We keep dropping that in there, and I think we talked about it in a previous episode. But it is the largest recreational tennis league in the country, which is pretty impressive. And the Atlanta community is a really big community for tennis, which is great. And I imagine, I know you said you took that year off, and then you kind of found your team and your squad. Like, what was that process like? Obviously, you play at an elite level. You want other really strong players to compete against. Like, how was it to kind of find that community?
yeah, I mean, funny enough, I probably, when I came back home, I joined my dad's league, and he was, probably A4, A3, which for me, that was really, really low. So, winning it was good to win and not have to like do too much.
Serve left-handed or something.
No, I never did like that. But, I would, sometimes there was an overhead that just was a drop shot that didn't need to get fenced or hit anyone.
Yeah,
That's just too much. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully. So, I think for me was like finding what was enjoyable back of the competition. So like, for instance, if I did that and I liked it, but then I got a really tough match and maybe it was a 4-hour match and I was like, I don't miss this, then maybe I'd throw an old back, go back to that level. But personally, I liked getting back into the competitive side. And, I like competitive matches, but, sometimes I don't like playing the 3.5-hour ones. So that's probably how I got it.
Everyone does.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, there was, we just finished up our mixed league this year. And funny enough, I don't know if I told you this, I played Taylor Townsend's sister.
No way, really?
I can't believe I can't remember her name. She played for Clayton County.
Okay.
And that was a 3-hour, 45-minute mixed match.
3 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah, started at 9:30, finished at almost 1. And I kid you not, that was one of those times, I felt great because we won in a 10-point tiebreaker.
Oh,
And the
nice.
third, yeah, or 10-pointer when I think we got like 5-all. I woke up the next day and I was like, I might retire from the season. This is boring. I have
Can't believe things.
yeah, I mean, the recovery time of tennis and when you get older is just it's tough because I've never felt like forearm soreness, shoulder soreness, and actually hip soreness.
Jeez.
And I was just like, oh my God, like this is tough.
Right.
Let me ask you this, like, that's something that I think I've talked about, right? It's like throttling how much you play as you get older. Are you finding that your recovery, like you're having to play less so that you can recover better from the sessions and not kind of like mentally or physically burn out from that?
I would say I'm probably playing maybe I take an extra day more of rest. So yes, I would agree with that. I think how I would do it is, maybe I play the same amount, but I have to take my recovery more serious. So after I play, I actually have to, stretch.
Yeah.
I need to stretch. I need to maybe I'll take a cold shower as my quote unquote ice bath. I'll do wall drains, which is, you put your legs on the wall and your butt in the wall, and it helps.
Do the same thing. It's that's kind of so for me. I took a pretty long hiatus from tennis. It wasn't a year; it was 10 years. And yeah, coming back at 27, playing tennis again. I've always been like a pretty active person, but like a gym person, right? And so it was kind of the same thing where you stack. All of a sudden, you're still working out. You have that routine, but you're now playing at that point on throttled 3 to 6 times a week. And I'm realizing I'm burning out. And then I'm like, why is my body acting up like this? And I didn't realize that as much time, and we can probably get into this in another episode, but as much time as you put on court, you almost have to dedicate or parse out that time for your recovery. I mean, I had never warmed up before a match or before a session. I'd never had a cool down routine. I'd never done the wall drains. I'd never done mobility in the morning, just to kind of keep up with it. And guess what happened? I ended up going to PT for like 4 or 6 months for like a hip problem, a calf problem, jammed my foot. So it definitely, showed me that. And this is the funny part. I talked to my physical therapist and I go, man, I'm having to train like an athlete, but I'm not getting paid like one. And this is kind of the conundrum, I think, of a lot of a lot of recreational players in a lot of different sports, especially tennis, that is so accessible, so demanding. Yeah, to your point, it's true. You get older, everything takes a little bit longer, and all of a sudden you have to be a lot more mindful of what you do off court based on what you do on court.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think one of the main sayings my athletic trainer did when I was in college was like, if you play, we'll just use an hour for easy math because I'm not great at math, is if you do an hour, you need to do about 20% of that time into rehab. So an hour would be 20 minutes of rehab, which, you do 3 hours, you're at an hour of rehab. You're falling asleep doing the wall drain because it's been over 15 minutes and you're doing it. So it's hit me hard this year is that you really have to take your warm up, your play time, your cool down, and your recovery very serious, or it'll linger out, and that's when you start seeing these injuries. So
Yeah.
And you think about like Atlanta and the heat too. Like I'm sure that adds like an extra element to it as well. Like I feel like I'm always before like a match, like for USTA, like at 4 p.m. on a Sunday, I'm just like chugging water for like 2 hours before.
Electrolytes.
Yeah,
You preload with electrolytes. Like you said you did that 3 hour and 45 minute match. Like how'd you manage your hydration and your energy levels throughout that? Because I know it's mentally draining, right? To be able to focus for 4 hours, it's really hard, and typically it's a lot of up and downs. We've seen it on like Alcaraz. Well, he'll like sacrifice his set so he can get back on track. How do you stay like hydrated and fed? What do you typically like eat or drink?
yeah, so I would say during a match, I typically take a good, 64-ounce water with me. Every time I do any type of workout, I need to snack on something. I feel like for me, it's to keep either my blood sugar high or it's like a mental tick for me. So what I do is, 64 ounce of water, I'll take it there. I usually have one banana. I'll try to do that for if it's a quick match, one banana for the whole match, or if it's a longer one for that one, I think I eat two. So at least two bananas and then usually like a protein bar. And I think Costco has a really good one. It's like 22 grams of protein.
You were joking before the episode that you're probably gonna have to be sponsored by Costco, right? Because you keep going there.
Costco, if you're listening. But yeah, I would say for that match personally, 64 ounces, two bananas, a bar of protein to help with, get something in your stomach, and then a little bit of Gatorade or electrolytes.
Yeah, fair enough. Sounds simple enough, right? It's like, but I don't think most of us are thinking about that. It's just, hey, I'll bring water, and then you realize, why am I so dead in the second set?
Yeah, I mean, your energy level drains quick, and I think that's funny enough, when I don't bring it, I'm like, why am I so tired? Like,
Right.
I don't understand why. And I think my body's just kind of gotten used to what I need as my pick me up for me.
Right.
And it can be different for everyone, but for me personally, I need that pick me up to help me get over the finish line. So
I used to have the idiotic idea that I could play fast it. I fast most mornings, so I was like, you know what? Like, I can do it with tennis. And I got into this. I played line 5, which, line 5, so Alta typically plays. Feel like we started at like 11:30 in the morning. I got there at 9. So all I had in my stomach was a coffee. We got into this 3-hour match with 2 6-year-olds. They show up. I always tell everybody the story. They show up, they shake our hands, and they go, all right, by the way, no pressure. We're only 120 years old collectively. And I'm like, yeah, no pressure, dude. I'm playing with this guy, Tyler, that, it's fresh out of college, also played in college, but he's like 21. We're collectively not even 50 years old. And these, I mean, to their credit, we played for 3 hours. And so I ended up breaking my fast at like 3 p.m. I like survived that match off of like pure mental capacity because I have nothing in my stomach and I refuse to take something because then that might like fluctuate with my blood sugar, you know, like, oh yeah, let me break my fast in the middle of the match and then all of a sudden crash. Like, no. But yeah, I used to be idiotic about it and think that way. Now I'm a big proponent of like having dates or something. That bananas are huge too. Like I will now go in the second, and I feel it. I've started to recognize it. Like I'm in the second set. If you're losing focus, you're probably also like low in energy, period, like physiologically low in energy. So I recognize, why am I always dropping the second set? And it's like, well, because yeah, I mean, I only have so much energy in my body. I need to replenish. So thank you for sharing your I guess your schedule, right, of what you do. I think everybody has their own shape or form. Like I think I learned dates from Djokovic. Like he's a big date guy, but I didn't think dates were like a mid tennis snack or whatever, mid match snack.
Some people on tour, and I can't think of the top of it, they'll drink or Diet Coke or they'll
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
you're
seen
talking
that.
about like it's I think it's a Japanese guy that's famous for it. Yosuke. I think it's the guy that's famous for like asking for a Coke in the middle of a match.
think it was just recent. Like he might, I don't know if he's an older player, but I feel like I just saw something where he was like in Wimbledon or like the French Open. He's like, I need a Diet Coke.
And just to go back, you didn't tell us who won that match against the 120-year-old.
Oh yeah, of course. He always wants to put me in the spot. Thankfully, we were able. I mean, the funny thing about this whole thing is like Tyler's a great player, but he's a younger player. This guy is. We're playing on a Saturday afternoon, right?
A lot of excuses here. Go ahead.
And we're playing on a Saturday afternoon. UGA is playing. He's telling me, man, I should be getting blackout at Park Tavern watching the UGA game, watching the Dogs game. I go, dude, get your head in the game. I'm over here dying fasted, and this kid's talking about, the UGA playing like great and all, but like we gotta win this for our honor, right? Our honor is at stake here. We ended up winning. We pulled through in the third set, but yeah, thank you. But yeah, I mean, shoot, I shook their hand and I go, this might have been condescending. I don't know. But I said, look, if I have half the battle that you guys have at 60, I'm going to be all right in my life. I'm going to be okay. Because these guys just kept fighting. They did not give an inch all the way until the third. Like, it's not like we just like, they got tired and we won the third set. No, we won the third set like 6-4. It was close. Every set was close. It was like, ridiculous.
Really appreciated that. That was a nice comment at the end.
I guess. I don't know.
I've been like, I strive to be you guys. Like honestly,
That's all I could think about. I was like, dude, I hope I can be 60 and just slugging it like these guys, not giving up and being able to last 3 hours in the middle of a, hot. It was a hot fall day.
yeah,
That story, but
So I'm glad you won just for your dignity and pride.
yeah. That might have been the fourth. That was the fourth racket will be broken into the future.
saying I guarantee you I probably threw my no. You know what? This is the funny thing, and this is not traditionally a doubles player. Atlanta has turned me into a doubles player, but the funny thing about Tyler and I is we're both kind of firecrackers. So because I knew that, and I was, I guess, the older player in the pair, I kind of felt like I had a job of being the more mentally stable one. He threw his racket a few times, and I think I didn't, but mainly because I think I had to be the anchor. And in singles, you don't have that, right? Like you can spin, and all of a sudden you can spin in your head, and then all of a sudden be like 3 or 4 games down in a row and be like, what happened, right? Because you just went down like a dark path. But in doubles, I felt like, you know what? I'm going to be the anchor. I'm going to be the one that's going to be like motivating and all this. I felt that responsibility. So I was actually really steady.
That's growth.
And yeah, that's growth, right? That's growth. But yeah, to your point, yeah, it's difficult. But yeah, I didn't throw a racket. Not in that one, right? So I'm proud of that moment. Yeah, Oh, you say you're naturally not a very angry player. That's good, man. I envy folks like you, Gerard's kind of the same too. He's really intense, but like in a good way.
He's very like zen on the court. Like, I feel like he'd be a perfect example of a guy. It's like he could be absolutely pissed, but he would never show. He kills you with kindness.
I try to do that. I try to just keep it contained, keep it inside. Like, don't show you anything on the front. But yeah, I could be boiling inside.
I couldn't tell you. He could be listening to some rock music. He's swerving. He's punching the wheel.
Well,
I see Gerard.
we'll get
be
to that
like
one
that.
episode. You know, we'll
Yeah,
get there
he's
later.
too nice for that, man. No.
So we talked about nutrition, talked about kind of the rehab piece. I'm curious, just broader fitness. So obviously you mentioned you were, grinding in the gym during college, working out multiple times. What is that like now? I mean, I'm sure you're still fit. Obviously you're still playing a ton of tennis, but like how do you think about fitness now as someone, just an adult who has like a full 9 to 5 in life?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the biggest, the biggest challenge is that you get set a schedule of what workouts you're doing and what bodies what body parts you're actually working out. So you almost have to either, follow theirs and try to take that into your everyday life. But, sometimes you'll see those people that do those weird, janky workouts. Like, okay, this is a college athlete workout right here because it makes no sense what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's just I try to set a monthly itinerary when I go to the gym. And I typically,
Monthly.
yeah. I try to do twice a week is my minimum right now. If I can get a third one in, it just depends on if, I'm doing more cardio that week, then maybe I'm doing 2. But if I'm doing less cardio, I'm going to do more strength building.
When you say more cardio, are you like doing runs, or do you mean just tennis?
Yeah, so I think tennis and tennis by itself and pickleball is a lot of cardio based. So it would be tennis, pickleball, or running. So if I'm doing more than 2 sessions of those a week, I'm doing 3 workouts, or I'm doing 2 workouts. If I'm doing less than that, I'm doing 3 workouts. But yeah, what I'll do in the middle, at the beginning of the month is I'll set out my monthly plan of what I want to work on this coming month. So right now I've been doing more kind of strength stuff, just trying to survive the summer.
Yeah.
And
You don't need to be out there all the time, right?
it's just too hot. So I've been trying to work more in strength building. So I've been doing a lot of, deadlifting, a lot of leg stuff for tennis, a lot of shoulders. But I do that every month at the beginning of the month just to kind of give myself I don't know what I'm doing this week. I'm not going to go. I think it helps. I think it helps me stay on track with, it's like giving me my structure that I had in college tennis, but like I'm doing it myself.
Right.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I can respect that, for coming from somebody that has like almost every hour of the week planned. I respect that. When you say monthly, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, dang. Because I do it on a weekly basis, right? I take like 30 minutes on Friday to plan the following week, and kind of standard too. Like it's almost the same thing, but it's interesting that you take it one step further and go for the month. It's great. You're setting your intentions early on what you're trying to accomplish, and then you're setting a target. Reality is, I think, for all of us that are now, have our 9 to 5s and we have everything, you're gonna set a target and you're definitely not gonna hit it. But if you don't set that target, you're not gonna come anywhere close to it.
Right. I mean, you'll just find excuses to oh, I worked till 5:30 and I'm supposed to go to gym at 6. I just, I'm not going today. So it just helps yourself hold accountability for, for me, I'm a big believer in like little goals. Like for me, I always make my bed to start this day off, and I'm like, okay, this is like a little victory for me.
Yeah.
Like it starts the day right. And
Absolutely.
I read something about that. My mom preaches it very much, and it's just one of the things that kind of stuck with me through college, got me through college, and it's just really held myself accountable.
Love that. Well, Jake, you've always been super supportive of the pod thus far. I know you've been listening to it and watching it and giving feedback, and we'll text back and forth on like your thoughts and things like that. I know the last episode, of course, you listened to was focused on pickleball, turf war. You also have, I think, an interesting perspective here because, from what I understand, you coach pickleball too. Like talk to us, like, how do you view the sport? Like, how did you kind of get into it? How do you coach now? Like, I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, how I got into it was, if to give people a picture of Legacy Park in Kennesaw is they have about, I think was 13 courts, but there was one center court on the top of the neighborhood, which, I mean, they're all aligned, and they converted that one to 4 full-time pickleball courts. So now there's like 12 tennis courts. And, I was just like, I was still kind of big into tennis. I think I was only a year out of college. So I was like, okay, I'm getting back into tennis. I was like, I bought something on Amazon. I was like, okay, people keep talking about this. I was like, I'll give it a try. I had the smoothest Amazon paddle. I think it looks sick. Absolute that galaxy on it.
Yeah.
didn't hit well, but we played once with some of the tennis friends. We had a little fun, kind of fell off. And then, probably about 6 months later, I started seeing stuff about the PPA and APP, which those are, like the professional tournaments for, like, I guess there's like pro tour now for that. And I started seeing like reels and Instagram on that. I was like, okay, maybe I'll look into this a little more. And my buddy Jay, who was my tennis partner at the time, he's like, hey, like, I got a guy that's like plays a lot, and let's go try playing with him. So I got a new paddle, like a good paddle, and we played, and I was just like, because I was like, this is a slow sport. This is not fun. And we played, and I was just like, oh my God, this is unbelievably quick, and it's fun. We played for 2.5 hours in July heat. 2.5 hours. Yeah, and I was just like, I'm like, I could play more. Tennis, I would have been like, I could crawl from right. So that's kind of how it blew up. And me and Jay, we played for a bit. We played in the pro tour just for a little. We did it for like 6 months a year. We did all right, and that's great. Then I realized, I met my girlfriend at the time when we were playing. She's not really a hands-eye coordinated person. She's definitely not a tennis person, but we wanted to do something together. I was like, let's try pickleball, and I got her a paddle and all this, and she picked it up pretty quickly. I was like, all right, well, this is pretty cool. Like, we can do something together.
Right.
Yeah. And, but she was getting frustrated because, like, we do 2 or 3 sessions. She's like, I don't understand why I'm not getting better. And I'm like, I couldn't tell her because, like, I was like, okay, like, I know tennis, like, this should be able to help coach, right? Like, I should be able to help give her instruction. And, like, I just couldn't connect the dots, and I couldn't relate it to someone like that. So I started looking into it, and there's this organization called PPR. And I should be able to know what this stands for, but it's essentially the certification for people that want to get certified. So I did that. I took it actually in Atlanta. It was like, a 2-week process. I think you do a clinic. The guy watches you, makes sure you know what you're doing. You get certified. But it tells you like a lot of things for beginners. You can do beginners, intermediate, and advanced. And, I kind of used that. I was like, okay, like, let me give my girlfriend a lesson now. And we gave her a lesson. And I was able to I'm using what I learned into that, like in our coaching sessions. And, I've started seeing a lot of improvement from her.
That's very cool.
And she's starting to work her way up, and, hopefully we'll be able to play. She gets nervous when she plays other people. She's like, you guys just hit the ball to her. I'm like, yeah, that's fair. I get that. But that's kind of how my coaching career started. It was basically off of, really trying to help with her,
right,
and like, bring it down to that level on the beginner side and, help people. So yeah, just kind of a crazy ride, really.
Oh, if you obviously mentioned that there are differences, and you couldn't really, because you're a tennis player, you had to almost relearn the principles of a different sport, even though it's still a let's just call it a racket sport. What are some of the differences that you're finding between pickleball and tennis, technique, all that?
So I will say, if you play tennis, it gives you a very, very big advantage because it's essentially like tennis, but it has a different feel. Your paddle's shorter, so you really have to learn to get lower on the ball. Like, the ball won't come to you because it's a wiffle ball. With the new paddle technology, you're able to generate a little more spin, which is great. So, from that aspect, I can almost play it like tennis, where I can get top spin, forehands, backhands, things of that nature. But you have to, you have to go to the ball instead of the tennis ball comes to you. With, you got to get lower to the ball because the ball obviously doesn't bounce as much.
It's not good for me. My footwork is not there.
I will say, if you're not doing the technique right, your back will be hurting. If you do a good day of pickleball, your legs are on fire.
That's what I keep seeing people, right? And then, like, a lot of this was in the news where, like, the average age of a pickleballer was like way high. I think we mentioned in the previous episode. It's obviously becoming younger and younger, but that's what every time I've seen pickleball being played, again, a very recreational level, I just see a lot of people bent over trying to get a ball, and I'm just like, this cannot be good for folks that have, like, are not using lift with your legs, not your back, right? So it's like, I could just see a lot of people just having like lower back problems with pickleball. So you're saying that you have to have the proper technique. What do you mean by that?
Well, so it's a lot of, if you play, I guess, being, hitting the ball normally in the baseline, it's the same. Obviously, you're going to have to, bend your knees, getting below the ball, trying to hit it at its highest, its peak point, like a normal tennis ball. But when you get to the kitchen line or the non-volley zone, you have to really work on. So, when you hit a tennis volley, you step forward usually. You turn your body, hit a backhand with your right foot would be forward, forehand, your left foot would be forward. Well, with pickleball, you can't step into the kitchen or the non-volley zone when you're hitting a volley. So you have to make sure that you make contact with the ball behind it and you can't be on the line. So what you have to do now is you have to almost stand parallel to the net. Your left and right foot are aligned with each other, and you have to hit the ball and not move forward. So now it's a lot of, if people hit the ball low, it's a lot of reaching. So that's where you'll start seeing those back issues where people are like either tired or don't know the right form, is they're reaching over because they're trying to keep their legs plant and they're not, they're not using their legs and they're using their back to go get it. So you really have to focus on, you really have to get down on your legs. You have to get low to the ball. You really have to focus on your form or you're going to be having some back issues for sure.
I could see that. Yeah. Now you just said that tennis skills, if you're a tennis player, you have an advantage. Does it work the other way around?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, and I hate to burst people's bubble is that I've seen a lot of people that you can tell that they came from pickleball, that they started with pickleball and maybe they tried tennis. There is a canyon difference between form. You can really tell a natural tennis player, they'd have that, that circle, that loop where they go from low to high, or they do their forehand, they load up. With pickleball players is you don't have a lot of backspin or like a big, what do you call it?
Wind up,
Big wind up. It's everything's short.
kind of like racquetball.
Yeah, it's very short bursts. Yeah. So like, you'll be late to a pickleball if you do that big load, that big loop. So you can tell these people is that they have really short forms and they're trying to catch everything like squared up and in front of their body. So with natural tennis players and some of the people we coach is you can tell is like they'll move around the ball and try to catch it, where they're totally sideways. Where pickleball players, there's a lot of them are hitting it square to me. Like I guess it would be like an open stance in tennis. And they're just, they're just whacking it. I'm like,
Yeah.
you can tell, you can get away with it in pickleball, but in tennis court, you're going to get,
You gotta slow it up.
yeah, exactly. Your form, you'll get crushed.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Now, we talk about that. What do you think is the most common mistake that pickleball players make in general?
ooh, I think it comes down to the rules perspective. I think a lot of people don't understand the non-volley zone or the kitchen where I think that's the biggest mistake is I see is that they'll hit a volley and they'll let their momentum take them into the kitchen, which you can't do that. You have to hit it, make sure you're established outside of it. And then if the next ball is hit, then you can play on. The only time you can go actually into the kitchen is, you go for a ball. If it bounces, then you can be in there and you can hit the ball. Or you can just be in there, but you can't make contact with it. So that's probably the biggest challenge that I've seen for a lot of beginner players is understanding just the rules of pickleball. Because they'll go out there, you'll see these people like, oh man, they're just having a good time. They're just hitting the hell. But you're looking at them like, well, that's, you're not supposed to do that. Or, oh, they hit the ball, they're hitting an overhead serve where you have to feed it underhand. And it's like, they're just having a good time. So that's probably the biggest one I've seen is the rules perspective.
Pickleball police.
Yeah. I'm coming for you. If you see my blue Subaru coming, you need to run.
That's great.
How do you, yeah, and how, obviously, I feel like now not everyone's a pickleball beginner anymore, right? The sport's developing where you have more of a progression. It's more mature. It's kind of like tennis where like there are different levels and all that. How do you tailor your coaching to like different ages and different playing levels? And what's that look like for you currently?
Yeah. So a lot of times how I start it with like a new student, if I don't know them, is I will reach out to them and be like, hey, send me your top 2, top 3 biggest strengths, biggest weaknesses, and what level you think you are. This kind of gives me a baseline of what I'm going to see, or how I tailor their lessons coming forward. Because you'll see one of the main difference between, beginners to that intermediate level is like, at 3.0 to 4.0. They kind of do it like tennis. So there's a duper scaling that goes from, I think it's all the way from 1 to like 6. If you're above a 5, it means you're a pro player. So a lot of times I'll see those 3 to 4, that 4 range is those intermediate or the beginner to intermediate. So I talk to them about, where they are in their level and all that. And, I have a lesson and I just watch them. Like I'll just hit with them, see where their level's at. Cause I can kind of gauge where they're at because I've just played so much. And that's how I'll tailor the current, private or lesson I'm doing. And then for future ones as well, for that level, it just really depends on how much they can take. So you just kind of play it to that person, you figure out, if they're not very mobile, you don't try to run them, we're doing suicides, we're doing suicides. So you're not going to do that. But I'd say I kind of tailor to each person and, what they're wanting to achieve, where they're wanting to get. And I just tailor it.
Are you seeing many juniors take lessons in pickleball, or is it kind of older folks who've like played tennis before? Like, what's kind of like the population typically?
Yeah, I would say I haven't really seen many juniors getting into it yet. I see them occasionally playing. I personally haven't done any lessons with any juniors. I think all my lessons have been with people 40 and above. And a lot of them, half of them are tennis players that are trying to learn how to understand the game of pickleball and improve their level. And a lot of them are just people that are, maybe beginners on that teeter of intermediate, and they're trying to improve their game and work on things. Like I have a current student, I guess students I'd call them, a husband and wife that I've been doing for about a month now. And their biggest thing is like, they're like, well, we just go out and play. We never practice, we never do all this. I want to work on these things. And I want to get more consistent with them. I'm like, perfect. I will tailor, 20 minutes per lesson on what you want to work on consistency. And I've seen an unbelievable amount of improvement from both of them, just because they're actually taking the time to practice and do stuff instead of going out there and just playing. Because when you go and play, you can't really work on stuff. You can have an idea. Okay, I'm going to drop more than I drive today, or I'm going to hit that, more topspin. But then you get in that perspective. You're like, okay, I'm down 4-0. Time to go where I feel comfortable with. So I'm really able to break these students down in these one-on-ones and what they want to work on. And I've just seen an unbelievable loads of difference from it. So
That's very neat.
yeah.
Talked about it in episode 2, right? The importance of like one coaching, right? Especially as a beginner, like, we have a friend that kind of has the same perspective. Like, you want to get better, go for a coach, or at least start with recording yourself so you can actually see what you're doing. I think in tennis it's a little bit more important because there's so many nuances for technique, but it just goes to tell you that you're right. You can't just go out and play. You have to work on something every time. I know Gerard has kept me accountable on our hidden sessions to make sure that we have a little bit more direction on that instead of just like sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes especially as a having a 9 to 5, sometimes going out and hitting a tennis ball just like clears your head. So there's an advantage to that. But to your point, like if your goal, it all depends. If your goal is to clear your head, then yeah, maybe going out and hitting is fine. But then if you're going beating yourself up and saying, well, I want to be better, then you can't do that.
Yeah, you just really have to, and that's what I try to establish on when I talk to clients is that our students. It's just like, what do you want to accomplish? Like, I'm here for you to help you get better. So if you just want, you just want to get better at consistency, and you really don't want to work on much things, you just kind of want to turn your brain off, but like also improve. That's perfectly fine. But if you really want to take it serious, you want to get from I'm a 3-5 player to I want to get to a 4, potentially 4-5. Well, then I'll tailor that to be a little more intense, a little harder, so that you can get to your goal. So I just try to establish what they want.
Right. That's great. You gotta diagnose before you prescribe, right? Big fan of that. So what advice would you give to young players trying to decide, do we, should I focus just on tennis or maybe exploring multiple racket sports, in this case, pickleball?
Yeah, this is a really, really good question because if if I had to do it again, I think I would do exactly what I do personally growing up is I would work on tennis and then work in multiple sports there. I would think that I would push them to, work your tennis game up, get your technique down, and then let's say, obviously experiment other sports, but that's where you would bake in pickleball. Personally, I wouldn't tell someone to you're going to be a pickleball player and then maybe we'll get into tennis later. Because it's going to be my biggest thing is it's really hard to break people down of old habits. That's what I'm seeing with a lot of these tennis to pickleball players, but I can work with that. When you're trying to work with a pickleball to the tennis perspective, it's a whole different game. I mean, pickleball is to me is just smaller tennis because I was just so into tennis growing up. So I would personally tell them, let's get good at tennis, really, really focus on your coaching here, then jump into pickleball, have fun with it. And then if it's something that you really want to pursue, and like get better at, then you start working into it because the transition back and forth is a little difficult. I will say the transition from tennis to pickleball is easy, but from pickleball to tennis is very difficult for me personally because it's a lot quicker. You know, you have a bigger racket in tennis. The ball is heavier. The ball is faster. And it's a lot more moving.
And more of your body too, right? To generate that pace over and over. And that's a lot of folks don't understand that. Like my wife and I will play mini tennis. So I still have not touched a pickleball paddle or anything like that. I'll get her into mini tennis, but then she'll go, hey, let's go. Let's back up. Let's play from the baseline. And then she starts realizing like she's not generating the power to be able to, you know, get the ball past the service line, right? So or the service boxes. So that's one thing. It's like all of a sudden you're starting to have to drive the biomechanics, to use your feet, to use your legs, your hips, and then really your arm just becomes an extension of your body. It just finishes that movement. But it's like doing all of that over and over and being coordinated, right? I mean, even at our level, it's hard, man. Sometimes you just feel like, what am I doing?
I mean, tennis is a sport where you almost lose. I mean, I think you lose 50% of your points, or I think you just lose under it, but it's a losing sport. Right.
Yeah, it's a game of errors, and that's the most frustrating part. Is like the one guarantee is that you're gonna make errors, and you're gonna lose points, and it's, you just gotta get it. You gotta get through that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
And so, what's your take on this turf war between tennis and pickle? Like, do you have a side of which one is your favorite? Do you think tennis is losing? What's your take there?
You with a spice right there. Yeah, let's wrap that up.
You might not see me next week after this answer. It's just so tough because I love tennis and I love that people are, you know, able to do pickleball and kind of get active, and you're having more people healthy. It's what I'm seeing. And I think you guys touched it a little bit on that last episode, is you're having more people get out there. You're having more people be active, which is amazing. That's amazing for the area. It's amazing for Atlanta. Now, the double-edged sword is I think Atlanta is such a stronghold on tennis that it's going to be very tough to have pickleball take it over. I think it'll be tennis, and I think pickleball will be falling up. But I think from a turf war perspective, I personally can deal with it because I do both perspectives. Correct. I've met very few people, and Lou's one of them, that have not played pickleball out of all my friends. Right. Yeah. So there's only a few of them I know, and you know they don't really, you know, Lou's not talking all like, why is this guy in my court? Why are they taking courts away from us? Now, from a parking perspective, last episode, I totally agree with that. Get these pickleball people out. That's too many people. But from a turf war perspective, I think they can commingle.
Would you agree that you want it to be an expansion plan rather than a conversion plan, if possible?
Yes, I think if they can keep the same amount of tennis courts, but build more pickleball facilities, I think they can commingle. Because you really, if you think about it, you don't need as much room with a pickleball compared to tennis. Like a lot of facilities now, like you have in the Atlanta area of APC, you have, which is Atlanta Pickleball Center. You have ACE, which I believe is in Roswell. And these are all indoor facilities with over, like, I think it's 12 to 15 courts each. And it's really not that, you know, it's a warehouse style. Right. Yeah. So it's not like a whole facility, like tennis facility. So I think if they keep all of the tennis courts right now and just expand on pickleball, I don't see any issue.
Trying to get everybody on the expansion bandwagon, you know.
Who's the current governor of Georgia? We need to get a letter going. I think Gerard would be a good guy.
Gerard, I keep saying Gerard for mayor of Atlanta. You know what I mean? Would you agree? Right? Gerard's connected enough.
I think he has enough connections. He's a good enough person, and he has that ambiance behind him that he could definitely do it. I'd be his running mate.
Yeah, dude, I would be on the streets. You know.
Yeah. Gerard for mayor. Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
There you go. Yeah, so I think we've come to that time of the episode where we get to do some spinning.
The spin the racket segment, and you get to hold the special racket here.
Yeah, you know,
Look at that. Oh, it does. To our listeners, there is a broken string.
There's a broken string. It's in the right spot though, right in the middle, so I didn't break.
Yeah, that's either a great serve or a great forehand right there.
It was a forehand.
Yeah, it feels right.
Forehand. Yeah, it's still up for sale on Facebook Marketplace. You know, we're gonna keep announcing this until we sell the racket. It's actually a pair. I have the other one. The other one's in my car, but this one obviously has the broken string. So
this one has a little more, you know, backstory to it, I think.
Character.
Yeah, the pink grip and everything.
I know. It's
love that grip. Yeah,
really worn. You know.
Yeah. It's got
a signature on it if you're lucky enough. No.
Yeah.
So for this segment, we have a pretty interesting question. I mean, I feel like I'm always gonna say like, oh, we have a pretty interesting question, but yeah. For this segment, we're gonna have a really boring question. So the question for this episode is, should men continue to play best of 5 sets in Grand Slams? So, the way this segment works is we're going to spin. If whoever wins the toss, in this case, we'll probably have you guys be a doubles. We're going to do it Australian style. We'll do it Australian style. So you guys are playing doubles. I'm playing singles. We get to spin. Whoever wins, then the spin then gets to either decide or go for the topic. Serve or go for the topic, or return, aka go against that topic. Let's not change, right? So in this case, yeah, whoever serves gets to, talk about the pros of men continuing to play best of 5 sets. And then if you want to go against that, got to make the points.
All right. And so Jake will do the honors of spinning our racket here. We got.
Yeah. I guess up or down.
Is it my honors to call?
Yeah.
Oh, Gerard, we might lose this. To this day, I think I went 0 for 7 in call in all to the season.
It's a head racket, so it's either the head is like the arrow is pointing up or pointing down.
Up or down. Well, let's go up. I'm feeling good. All right, and we'll stop. Okay, wait. 0 for 8.
Well, I like how you just spun it like a deliberate amount of times and it's still like, nah, dude.
Oh,
I kid you. I told you, there's a reason why I just don't call it.
He gets to decide which side he wants to take here.
I'm going to go for continuing to play best of 5.
Okay. All right. And then we'll argue why it should change. Cool. So
Yeah. You want me to go? No,
Yeah.
You know what? Well, you guys get
we
to
get to
decide.
decide.
Yeah, you get to decide. You want to go first? You want me to go first? It's kind of like tennis, Which side do you want to be in?
You think?
I'd say let's go first.
Yeah.
Let's put them on. Let's put
Yeah, put him on defense quick. Yeah. All right, you start. I'll let you.
All right. So I would say let's go with the 3 out of what it is right now. So I think it's 2 out of 3 for normal. The reason why I think we should change it is, for anyone that was watching Wimbledon, Dimitrov had a pec injury where I don't know if it toured or anything I think he was playing center, maybe quarters.
Really sad.
It was really sad.
He hit an ace though.
I know, great serve, but cost him the tournament, unfortunately. And he has 2 sets up to with center, so he had a good chance.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is just I'm looking at it from a perspective of health. We want these pro athletes. We want to watch them. We want them to entertain us. I don't know how many of these athletes can last 2 weeks on 5 sets. So let's choose an example of Zverev. Let's say, he starts a tournament with 2 5-set matches. Let's say each match was 3.5 to 4 hours long. That's 8 hours for his first 2 rounds. Well, a player, how are you going to expect them to finish out a tournament not feeling fatigued after they've already played 10 sets? Let's compare him to Carlos Alcaraz. He plays 2 3-set matches. He plays, only 6 sets total. And we'll just say each match was 2 hours, 4 hours compared to 10 hours. Well, I'm going to put my money on Alcaraz because he's going to have a fresher body. He's not going to be as fatigued as long. And he's going to have, it's 2 weeks of hard tennis. So from my perspective, I'm just looking at it from the healing, from the health side and, staying healthy throughout the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just, I think from a fan and TV friendly perspective too, like having a best 2 out of 3 matches, a lot easier to plan for scheduling for viewers. It's easier to plan for scheduling for the tournament. You think of a fan sitting out in 90-degree heat, watching a 5-set match, and do they want to stay for the entire time? Are they going to leave halfway through the match? If you're watching the classic Sinner Alcaraz French Open final, that's literally 5.5 hours. How do you block that much time in your day to watch a 6-hour match? So yeah, I think it's probably a little bit easier for the viewers to digest. And I think just from a perspective of maybe having the match as something that can be more susceptible for upsets as well. Like you think about a 5-set match, you could probably get away with losing a set or 2 and then maybe lock in for the last 3 sets. But if you do have a best 2 out of 3 sets, there's a lot more at stake. You definitely have to make sure you're locked in pretty early, and maybe there's more upsets because of that, and it makes it a little bit more exciting for the viewers, I think.
Yeah, I think you make a great point about the upsets. It gives a lot, 5 sets, just being able to, can you be engaged for 5 sets, 5 hours?
Right.
For 2 out of 3 sets, you drop a set, you're like, okay, well, if I lose the next set, it's over.
Yeah.
I don't get one more to play with. So I think that's a great point. A lot of pressure to Lou over here now.
That's right, Lou. What's your perspective?
Yeah, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna drop some spice on you. So let me start my statement, right, with a simple question: what would tennis lose if we moved away from those epic 5-set battles that become legendary matches? Let me answer that question for you. Roland Garros 2025 final. If I were holding this mic, I'd just drop it right there. Right? Well, let's be honest. Like Roland Garros 2025 final, Wimbledon 2025 final, Wimbledon 2008 final, Roger and Rafa. This 5-hour battles. So think about that. Think about the legacy, right? What becomes not just a regular final, but a legendary back and forth, almost like a push and pull, a tug of war between two legends, right? Like a lot of folks are saying the 2025 Roland Garros final is one of the best Grand Slam finals in history, right? So think about losing that from an entertainment perspective, from a tennis perspective. It's rough. And a lot of the things that make a Grand Slam is that 3 out of 5. It's the fact that it's a 2-week tournament. It's 128 players in the main draw. It is 3 out of 5. It's battles back and forth. So, I mean, you lose that, it kind of dilutes the essence of having that Grand Slam, having that to your point, a very long, drawn out, heavy on the body battle. But that's what makes a Grand Slam a Grand Slam. It's 2 weeks deep. It's 3 out of 5 for the man. And then from a entertainment perspective, you're right. Yeah, it's hard to stay focused for 5 hours straight, for 5 sets straight. But that, in my opinion, is also what makes it so amazing and entertaining, is that you are allowing a player to figure out another player's weaknesses because they have more time, they have more chances to really go and figure out what are the nicks in the armor, right? Inevitably there is going to be back and forth when you have that many sets played, and we saw that in the final again, 2025 Roland Garros final. One set goes one way, one set goes the other, and it's these minor changes in focus, energy, whatever that is, that make up for an amazing, legendary battle for the ages. So that's my point.
Yeah. I mean, you dropped the heavy artillery there. I mean, those are the big matches that we think about, like that Wimbledon 08. Yes, you're right. I mean, that's like a classic everyone talks about.
You were watching most of that final. I remember you were giving me crap because I wasn't watching it. I was on my phone, so I was on my phone watching the score live, but I wasn't actually watching the match. This guy woke up to watch it. So I mean, to your point,
listen, I mean, this is the fun part about this, is like we don't necessarily argue our point of view. It's just more like we have to argue what we argue. I mean, yes, I mean, those are incredible matches. If I'm thinking about it again in terms of why to change it, I mean, Rafa, right? He's out of the game. He's someone who's struggled with injuries for most of his career. If he was playing less tennis, if he did have maybe less of those titanic battles that we do love, would he be around for a couple more years? Could he extend his career? Would he play like a Venus Williams is playing at 45 years old? Like, I don't know. That's out there.
I don't know. You can boil it down to a single, let's just say there's only 4 Grand Slams in the year, though, and then they play sometimes 18 to 22 tournaments most of the time. So, I mean, at the end of the day, each player should be, throttling their body and their activity based on it. And I think I heard somebody say, Alcaraz at some point now, we have the Alcaraz and Sinner rivalry, but for a period of time, I heard somebody say that Alcaraz's biggest opponent was an injury. It wasn't another player. It was an injury. And we saw that, I think it was like in 22, where the guy started seeing some of the overuse, right? Some of the overtraining of like playing 18 plus tournaments in a year. And funny enough, my dad was talking about, this guy's going to have to be a little bit more precise with which tournaments he's going to put his energy into, because then he's going to run into this situation. So, I mean, to your point, then you can have somebody like Rafa maybe not play 250s and only play Masters and in Grand Slams, and maybe go for the bigger swings. I don't know. What do you think, Jake?
I guess we'll just have to wait and see what the tennis committee is doing. But yeah, I mean, you make a great point. I mean, from the fans' perspective, I think everyone wants these, these Goliath matches, these 5 and 5/2 matches. I mean, when we did Wimbledon, we had a little, strawberries and cream parties.
Yeah,
we're all wearing white, and we're like, okay, let's hope this is going to be a 5-hour match. Let's just hope for the best. And obviously, that one wasn't as great as Roland Garros, but now we could be hopeful for the upcoming U.S. Open, and I think with the hard court, it's going to really show who the true best player is, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, I always just try to look at it from a health perspective on defending. Try to do 2 out of 3, keeping them healthy, playing longer. I do agree with Gerard on that point, but yeah, I guess it's one of those. It's like, do I look at it from what maybe should happen for what I want? That's the true.
Right.
That's the true. They fight each other on that.
That's it. Yeah, that's the essence of this particular segment, right? Regardless of what topic we bring on, there's always going to be a pro and con to everything. There's always going to be sometimes a conflict of interest. We mentioned in episode 1, kind of the same thing. Safety of the players versus like tradition of the tournament. In this case, it was Wimbledon. So tying it back to that, it's sometimes you have do we want to keep things as they are because that's the way they've been done, or do we go and focus on player safety and maybe longevity because we want to have these players around for a longer time. We want to reduce the amount of injury. So it's always, it's never a clear answer, but I guess time will tell. Now, you've obviously stayed with us for throughout this whole episode. It's longer than it's been before, but obviously we've had very good conversations, and we look forward to having you in future episodes. Where can folks find you?
Yeah. So you guys can find me on social media. It's just Jake.Tuchman. My email is jake.tuchman12@gmail.com. Hey, I'm always looking for, more people. I always like telling my students, if you want to call me about questions, always just let me know and all that.
Yeah, the people.
The people. Yeah. So, that's my Instagram. And then, if they ever need contact, you got Gerard and Lu over here as well. I think you guys said you'll link some of the.
Yeah, we'll put some of the probably on YouTube, right? We'll put the links in the description and stuff. Wherever we can, we're gonna tag you and everything. So people are gonna be able to find you one way or another. Business inquiries here. Yeah, like some of those bios, business inquiries, and just drops like, yeah, there you go. Hit me on that Gmail. But yeah, so thanks for staying tuned with us. Thanks for watching and listening to whoever's just listening, and we look forward to seeing you in other editions of Spin the Racket.
I'm G.
And I'm Lou.
See you next time.